Hank's Brave Woodland Adventure, Chapter 1. A day of discovery. The sun was shining bright over the colorful meadow as Class 1 from Sunny Meadows Woodland School set off on their long-awaited trip to the Shadow Woods. Everyone was buzzing with excitement, except for one little hedgehog, Hank. Hank waddled behind the group, feeling left out as usual. He wasn't sure if today would be fun for him since the other animals in his class, especially Matilda Mouse, thought he was strange and never included him in their games. But today would be different. Today, Hank would discover just how brave he really was. Their teacher, Miss Squirrel, led the way, pointing out the beautiful flowers that painted the meadow in all sorts of colors. Hank admired the flowers but kept to himself as the rest of the class, including Rachel Rabbit, Wendy Weasel, and Ralph Raccoon, chattered excitedly. But Hank's mind was elsewhere. He was worried about entering the mysterious Shadow Woods. Would it be scary? Chapter 2. The Shadow Woods beckoned. The Shadow Woods looked small from far away, but as the class got closer, it grew taller and darker. Even Matilda Mouse, who always tried to act brave, hesitated. She ran ahead of the class, calling her friends to follow her, but Miss Squirrel wasn't pleased. "Matilda, get back here," Miss Squirrel shouted as she hurried after her. The class followed nervously, their excitement turning into curiosity and a little fear. When they entered the woods, the bright sunshine from the meadow was replaced by shadows. Everything seemed quieter. The only sound was the soft rustle of leaves. Rachel, Wendy, and Ralph held pause, looking around with wide eyes, while Hank shuffled behind them, feeling even more out of place. Suddenly, the group froze when Matilda jumped out from behind a berry bush and yelled, "Boo!" Her friends laughed, but Hank didn't. "Silly Hank," Matilda said with a smirk. "You're just no fun." Hank looked down, feeling even lonelier than before. But before he could say anything, a new sound echoed through the trees, a hiss. The class turned and saw a huge, slithering snake emerging from the shadows, his eyes glinting mischievously. "Lunchtime," the snake said with a sly grin. Chapter 3. Hank the hero. Fear shot through the class like lightning. Where was Miss Squirrel? The animals were all alone with the snake. Matilda and her friends clung to each other, trembling. Just as the snake inched closer, Hank's heart started to race, but not with fear. With courage. Hank had an idea. "Quick, everyone, down this hole," he shouted, pointing to a small burrow near a chestnut tree. Without thinking twice, the animals jumped into the hole. Matilda was the last to follow, but she hesitated and glared at Hank. "Hank, we're trapped now." "You silly hog," she snapped. But before the snake could slither closer, Hank knew what he had to do. He rolled into a tight, spiky ball and positioned himself at the mouth of the hole, blocking the entrance with his sharp spikes. The snake's eyes widened as it realized there would be no lunch today. With a disappointed hiss, it slithered away into the shadows. Hank stayed curled up until he was sure the danger was gone. Chapter 4. A new beginning. When the class returned to school later that day, everyone was buzzing with excitement about Hank's bravery. Miss Squirrel proudly told the head teacher, Mr. Owl, how Hank had saved the entire class from the snake's grasp. All of Hank's classmates gathered around him, thanking him for being their hero. Even Matilda, who had always teased Hank, gave him a big hug and apologized. "I was wrong about you, Hank. You're not odd, you're brave. You're my hero." Hank blushed and, feeling shy with all the attention, popped into a ball again. But this time, instead of being embarrassed, he smiled. For the first time, Hank felt like he truly belonged. From that day forward, Hank was no longer the odd one out. He was a hero, and he had made friends for life.